Iowa's coming off a gut-wrenching home loss, 18-16, to the 8-1 Oregon Ducks. USC is rising after a big win over Northwestern, which followed a close competitive come-from-behind win over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Iowa sits as a 6.5-point underdog. They're ranked 20th in the current college football playoff rankings. They're unranked in the polls after that loss. USC rose further to get close to the top 15 after that win over Northwestern. The college football playoff rankings have not been updated yet. So since we're using CFP rankings, we're technically going to be using rankings from last week in these videos, which honestly, you know what, makes sense because these polls are pretty useless. This channel will make you a college football expert and help you enjoy watching games and make more accurate predictions. So what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment your thoughts, and watch the video all the way through so that you can get the full package. And check the description and pinned comment for more ways to help yourself and this channel. Like, power ratings is a better way, honestly, of ranking teams than, rankings if you're doing game predictions. If you're looking at who deserves to go to what bowl games or to reach the playoffs, you got to factor in rankings. But especially now that the playoffs have expanded and so many teams can get in, when you're doing game predictions, it's probably best for not just you but the viewer watching to rank the teams based on their spot in ESPN's FPI or S&P Plus or FEI, for example. Iowa 6-3, 4-2 in Big Ten play. USC 7-2, 5-1 in Big Ten play. This will be a 3:30 p.m. game on Big Ten Network. I have no idea why this didn't get the CBS game and Penn State, Michigan State didn't get Big Ten Network, but whatever. The Big Ten contract has been an absolute disaster this year, and I'm certain that USC fans can attest to that. I've listened to USC fans complain about getting the 11 p.m. kickoff against Michigan State, to them complain about the recent grant of rights proposal with private equity in the Big Ten and USC voting against that, and also the fact that the travel is grueling. Same with some of the kickoff times. Like them having to kick off at 9 a.m. Against Illinois was pretty, just not good. Not good at all. Let's start talking about Iowa, since they're the visiting team. The Hawkeyes. What type of team is Iowa? Well, they play ball control. They rarely make mistakes, so they made plenty of those against Oregon, but I don't think you're going to see that again. They run the football well. They're okay at passing, whereas they used to be bad, but they're far from great at it. And they're talent limited, but they make up for the lack of talent at key positions by being as talented as the top contenders on defense and the offensive line. You see that in their games. Because they don't have elite skill position talent, they played it close with Rutgers and Iowa State and Penn State. But also because of their defense and special teams and their rushing offense, and the fact that as the season's gone on, Tim Lester and Gronowski and Iowa's an offense have grown together, they were able to blow out Minnesota, blow out Wisconsin. They were able to, dominate, obviously, UMass and compete with Oregon and Indiana, who are two of the top three teams in football per ESPN's FPI. They have a chance to win out, and if they win out, they're not going to get in the playoffs, barring some insane upsets, and even then I don't think it would happen. But look, 9-3 Iowa with this schedule, I'd declare that as a success for Kirk Ferentz and Phil Parker, LeVar Woods, who's one of the top coordinators as special teams coordinator in America, head coach in the special teams unit, and Tim Lester. They have a chance here. There's a reason USC is only favored by 6.5 despite the long travel for Iowa and it being a home game for the Trojans and USC having an extra day of rest. There's a reason this line is that short. Iowa does have a chance here. For the Trojans, they are this really interesting team where they're not deep, but when they're healthy, they play at a top 10 level when they're at home. So it's this weird like Venn diagram. There is the circle of USC at home and the circle of USC on the road and the circle of USC when healthy. or that's not the proper analogy. The Venn diagram is USC at home and USC healthy. Two circles. In the middle is a top 10 team. When they're just at home, they play very well. When they're just healthy, they play well. And the analogy is incomplete. I totally whiffed on that. My apologies. But when they're not healthy, or they're not on the road, they don't play all that well. When they're on the road and not healthy, you get the Illinois and Notre Dame game, where I'm pretty sure if those games are played either in the Coliseum or on a neutral field, USC wins. They're underranked when you look at where they are in the polls. Like, power ratings will tell you this is a top 15 team, and I believe they are. With Iowa presents an interesting challenge because they have the similar trench play of Michigan, but they're more disciplined. So they're not as turnover prone as Michigan. They don't run the ball quite as well, but they run it close. They're better on special teams, and they're way better on defense at making adjustments and defending the pass than Michigan is. USC also is not as healthy as they were against Michigan. No you got King Miller, but you don't have Waymon Jordan, unfortunately, nor do you have Eli Sanders. The offensive line, I don't know if it's as healthy as it was in that game. I know they had to change some things up against Nebraska. And as the season's gone on, USC is stabilized as kind of this top 15, maybe fringe top 10 team. Iowa's this top 20 team that could be fringe top 15. So this is going to be a very fun matchup using the USC at home versus USC on the road theory, where Riley has never covered the spread outside of the state of California, but against Missouri State, Georgia Southern, against Michigan, and against Northwestern, he's covered the spread, and Michigan State was more of a backdoor cover than anything else. He's done very well at home this year with USC, and last year did well against Penn State and Notre Dame at home with the Trojans. USC is definitely favored here, and a lot of things are going their way, but that also has no indication on this game because Iowa's a different type of team, and it's every given Saturday. And trends do break. Trends are something to keep in mind, but they are not the end-all be-all. They are to be used to justify things and different angles. The Trojans are made up of really 3 players on defense. Well, really 4. Jayden Maiava, King Miller, Makai Lemon, and Jacoby Lane. There are players in the offensive line that are great, and their tight ends, McCree and Lyons, are impressive. But it's really those 4 players. Those 4 players and an offensive line that has done a phenomenal job in run blocking and leads the Power 4 in havoc rate allowed. The current USC offensive line, Elijah Page, Tobias Raymond, John Ray Reed, Alani Noah, and Justin Ta'anu. They do have some injuries. There are some players that are out. So Killian O'Connor, for example, has been dealing with an injury. Hopefully he can get back before the end of the year. He's been phenomenal. Reed has been good, but not quite as good as O'Connor. And defensively, it's all about Bishop Fitzgerald, Kamari Ramsey, Eric Gentry. Their passing defense has improved as the season has gone on. It was really, really exploited by Illinois, but that has more to do with depth than their starters. When they are healthy, this defense is pretty good, and run defense is actually more of their weakness than pass defense when healthy. But they are deeper up front, D-line-wise, than they are at linebacker or the secondary. This is a team that really is a year, if not, I would say more so 2 years away. A lot of their players have eligibility to return. A lot of them will return. And because of some of the injuries, you're getting younger players depth. Honestly, much of this team will return next year, which is impressive and pretty phenomenal. I mean, Kamari Ramsey, I think, even has eligibility to return next year and probably should. So those are key players to pay attention to for the Trojans. For the Hawkeyes, it's all about their O-line. That's why those are all the key players I listed for their offense. Jennings Dunker, Bo Steffens, Logan Jones, Trevor Locke, It's a wonderful O-line that's going to be up for the Joe Moore Award. Zach Lutmer, TJ Hall, their corners, and Xavier Nwapka are some players to watch out for in the secondary. Same with Max Llewellyn, Ethan Herkett, and Aaron Graves on the offensive line. Quarterback. I think we all know who has the edge here. I would go with the Trojans there. But Gronowski is improving. 118.3 passer rating is his highest of the year. Broke 1,000 passing yards, did pretty well against Oregon. And he does a pretty good job at running the ball. He's an intricate piece to this offense that USC runs. And what I love about Gronowski is that he's tough and physical, and he's willing to put the team on his back. That's what I love about him. You know, Gronowski, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's 76th in QBR. Not awesome, but he's certainly an upgrade from McNamara and Sullivan. He has 338 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. I think he might lead all quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns. 17 total touchdowns. And I don't know what else to say other than that he's a dude. And he's a guy. He's a dog. Maiava is too. That forced fumble in the end zone for the touchback shows that as well. 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 164.2 passer rating, and a 90.7 QBR. He's averaging 9.7 yards per attempt and completing basically 2 out of every 3 of his pass attempts. He's one of the better quarterbacks in America, fits Lincoln Riley's system perfectly, great distributor, but also playmaker. Keys to this game: the lines of scrimmage, who comes out on top there? Probably favors Iowa, but USC's lines of scrimmage are superior to what they were last year, especially on the offensive line, but the defensive line too. What about the quarterback run? Gronowski, that probably favors him, but Maiava has shown a great ability to pull the ball on a read option, fake out the entire defense, and he's a hard-nosed runner too. Explosive plays, when you look at yards per play margin, I know that doesn't directly correlate with explosive plays, but it also partially does. Like, Iowa's anemic to explosive plays. That's why, despite being a top 20 power-rated team, their yards per play margin could be close to a negative. And then for USC, they have a plus 2.39 yards per play margin. Who gets the more explosive plays? And that's not just offensively, because that would be USC. It's defensively. Does Iowa get a pick 6 here? Does USC get a forced fumble or even a pick 6 themselves? That's critical. The run defense. Iowa, in terms of EPA allowed per rush attempt, is 57th. They are top 15 in yards allowed per carry. They are pretty poor in their rushing success rate. They give up 3 to 4 yards per carry. They're content at doing that. On critical downs, they'll hand you a TFL, and they never allow you to run explosively. That's why what Oregon did to their rushing defense was very impressive. USC is 100th in EPA allowed per rush attempt, and they are pretty poor at yards allowed per carry. Their run defense is susceptible. Curious to see if the rushing offenses do win, as in theory they should either push the rushing defenses or straight up beat them, or if a run defense here comes to play. And whichever run defense I think wins, if at all, against the opposing offensive line, will win their team the game. Special teams is something to keep in mind too. USC, as they usually are under Riley, has been pretty poor there. As for the Hawkeyes, they're pretty good. Their efficiency collapsed due to the Oregon game with the safety and some of the poor punts, but it's better than the 30th special teams efficiency would suggest. It's a fantastic special teams unit. Drew Stevens hitting a 58-yard kick. If this game comes down to making field goals, would be close. USC is a good kicker in Ryan Sayeri, but Drew Stevens, I would trust him with his experience and what he's done with the Hawkeyes. Moving on to my prediction here and some of the matchups. USC has an edge in pass defense due to how anemic Iowa is there. I think in the trenches, Iowa has the slight edge, just the slight edge there. where USC's rushing offense, I do think will beat Iowa's run defense, but I'm more confident in Iowa's rushing offense beating USC's rushing defense. USC should be able to have some success passing the ball. I would expect a big play or two, but I also do think Maiava will throw a pick or two, and it will be a pretty even battle there. What pushed me to my prediction is that USC's at home, and Iowa couldn't overcome Oregon. Yes, they made a ton of mistakes, so in theory, if you play that game again, maybe Iowa wins, but Iowa also didn't play the healthy Oregon team that I thought they would. USC's better. USC's at home. They have that extra day of rest. Every game for them is critical to reach the playoffs. For Iowa, they're going to play with urgency, of course, because they're bought in for their coach, Kirk Ferentz. But I think that USC wins, and I do think they cover, not because they win in a blowout, but it's a 6.5-point line, and I do think USC wins this game by anywhere from 7 to 10 points. If I'm wrong, I think Iowa will win instead of USC blowing out Iowa. Iowa's a great team. They know how to win. It's a better team than they were last year, which is a credit to Kirk Ferentz's ability to reload, because they lost a ton from last year and got better. That's the definition of reloading. So I'm excited to watch this. It's a shame that it's not on CBS, but if Jake Butt is on the call, you're going to have better announcers in this game than what you have from CBS. So then maybe it's a blessing. This is a Big Ten network game. I think USC wins and covers. Somewhat confident about it. We'll see what happens between the Hawkeyes and the Trojans. Thank you for watching. It's my mission on College Football with Sam to make you the most informed, knowledgeable, and entertained fan as possible. We aren't perfect, but we hit the nail on the head more often than we hit our thumb with the hammer. Make sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment, and if you're here, you've probably already watched the whole video. So thank you for doing those things.